Hello, besties and bosses. How are we doing? I'm so happy to see y'all. I feel like this is a really important conversation. I don't know if we actually ever talked about this one. We're going to talk today about, did I put the title in here for y'all? We are going to talk about the number one thing most business owners are missing that helps you double or triple your revenue. So it's not a sexy or shiny thing. I feel like the online space is screaming all the time at the things we need to do more of or that we're missing. And look, some of it is like honestly probably true. Sometimes we aren't posting enough. Sometimes our content isn't getting seen. Sometimes our conversion events aren't converting. Sometimes our message is unclear. Sometimes we're not selling enough. Sometimes our funnel really is leaking. Sometimes we aren't getting the reach we want. Like all of that is sometimes true. But what we're going to talk about today, if you don't have this, kind of all of that doesn't matter. Even if you start to fix those things in your business or fix them or solve for them, if you don't have this, it makes it really tough to grow in business. I would say this is the number one thing that has helped me. I mean, look, number one thing is like maybe making it sound dramatic. Of course, there's lots of things that have helped me to have success in business, but I've been fully booked for, I think we're going on 6.5 years now with 20 to, generally I have about 20 to 22 ongoing clients and then some intensives rolled in there. I have up to 25 clients at a time in terms of my roster, but I make 25K to 40K cash once, and I've done so for I guess 6.5 years. I mean, I don't know, a long time at this point. And I would say this has really been one of the things that's helped me to have more peace in business, to keep my blinders on, but also to get and sustain those results. And I think without this, it is just really challenging in business. I talk about this with clients in different ways all of the time. All right, I've been chit-chatting and I have not pulled this up in the group, and I want to make sure I do so that I can answer questions, make sure that if you have questions, we can have a conversation around this and talk through this. Okay, there we go, great. If you're live, feel free to say hi. I definitely want to have a back and forth around this. We're going to talk about this from three lenses. You know I am not a all strategy or all mindset person, so I want to talk about this from the lens of mindset, strategy, and actually your schedule. Before we dive in to this, I've got two quick announcements. So first announcement is the first week in June. So we have our lives on Wednesday. The first week in June, we're going to move lives to 12 p.m. Eastern. They've been at 1 p.m. now for years. We're just going to move them back an hour. We have a masterclass the last week in May, so I won't be in the Facebook group. You'll have to sign up for that. We'll have that on Zoom, a private Zoom, so that we can workshop that together. And so our next live stream in the group after that, so it'll be the first week in June, we will be changing to 12 p.m. It's basically so I can up time for a client spot more than anything is the reason I'm doing that, and still make it to my hip hop class. If you really want to know the reasons, there's no real strategic reason why, but I have a client who needs the spot, and if I tack it on to the end of the day, I miss my hip hop class, my hip hop choreo class, which is very important to me. So permission to change things in your business so that they can serve your clients and serve you. The other announcement is I will drop a link for this. I'm meeting with potential clients for upcoming intensive spots and ongoing spots. I don't know what my next ongoing spot is, but we have some intensives that I'm opening up. I'm also meeting with potential clients for upcoming VIP days that I'm going to have available at the end of summer and kind of into fall and winter. I'm doing one at the beginning of June, and I realize I never talk about them. I host them in New York City. I get to spoil you. I take you to a couple of different places, treat you to food and drink, but we also get to coach on your business all day long, and everything from talking about the mindset, but to really walking through a launch strategy, mapping out your strategy to scale to 6 or 7 figures. I can get in there on the computer with you and help you with copy and take a look at funnels and all of that. So I am opening up a couple of those end of summer, fall. And I'm thinking about, y'all let me know, and then I'll stop with my announcements. I'm thinking about doing a half-day virtual intensive for those of you who can't make it to the city. I think the New York City VIP days are just fun because you get to be spoiled and they're kind of bougie, but also we get a lot of shit done. I did one, I'm doing one in June, I did one in December, and it was just, what we were able to do at one day was remarkable. But book a consult with me. I'm toying with a half-day intensive as well. Okay, those are my announcements. Let's now talk about the thing I've been teasing out, the most important thing business owners are missing. Helps you double or triple your revenue. I'm teasing this out because I know when I share this, you're gonna eye roll me. You're gonna be like, really, Kim, that's what it fucking is. Hopefully that's not how you think about our content. But I cannot stress enough how this is the linchpin to everything in business that you want and into life and to getting big results, and how this is the biggest thing I am coaching clients around all of the time that they think they have in place and don't. And not to make anyone wrong, I think it's just something that's why coaching exists. That's why I have a job. That's why I still work with my coach. And again, we're gonna talk about this through three lenses, and that is priorities and knowing what is a priority in your business and what to focus on at any given time. and outside of business as well. But one of the biggest things I think people are missing is they think everything is super urgent, everything is 10 level importance, everything needs to be done now, or nothing's important. And it's sort of like solving the right problem, but sometimes this isn't even about solving problems in your business. Sometimes this is literally about understanding you can't do everything at the same time, and you definitely can't do everything well at the same time. And when we don't know what is a priority and what currently needs the most focus, what your business currently needs from you to focus on, it is really, really easy to be very busy, to feel like you are doing all of the things, and to wonder why you're doing things you see other people doing and why you're not getting the same results as them. And that's probably because the priorities in terms of where your time and energy and focus is going is just not in the right place. This is also a way to easily burn out, but I think sometimes this is also just where you're like, I don't understand, I feel like I'm on this hamster wheel, why am I not getting what I want? This is often it. So again, I'm going to break this down in three different ways. If you have questions, reflections, throw them at me. I hope, I know this is not a sexy conversation, but I hope this will be really valuable for you. This is definitely like the thing I think about so much, and then I'm bringing to my coach all of the time as well. Let's talk mindset really briefly, and then I think the strategy and schedule piece are actually kind of more pressing here, but I think the mindset piece we all get, but I think it's just helpful to do kind of like a little recap on. I think what we all, I mean, if you're in this group, you understand the importance of mindset. You get what you focus on expands. You understand, like, you know, your thoughts really control what you notice, what you don't notice, your actions, all about how you show up. And I think most people in this group understand that it's not just about strategy, but it's who you're being, how you show up in that strategy that gets you results. With priorities in particular, I think what we don't often realize with mindset is that our brain is filtering for repetition, not accuracy. And what that means is that what we are saying most of the time is what we are telling our brain is a priority. And that is what we are telling our brain to go out and pay attention to focus, to create more of, to notice in the world, right? What most of us don't realize is that what we are actually repeating and filtering for and telling our brain is a priority are all of the things we don't fucking want, right? It is, I mean, gosh, this is something like I was lovingly giving a client a hard time about recently. She was just so focused on the gap in her business and where she isn't yet and the challenges in her business. And no, we don't need to pay attention to those. We don't have blinders on. But that was such a fixation point. That was becoming the priority. The priority was a gap. There's a problem. I see this a lot when clients, when they have open spots to fill or when they're in a launch and launch isn't going like the way they want, instead of prioritizing getting clear on the right problem to solve and like what they need to do and the clients they want to bring in, they're really prioritizing and focused on what's going wrong, what's wrong with them, how this isn't working, how this isn't gonna work for them. And so it's really, really easy for our brain, because our brain is wired for survival, not for safety. Our brain is wired to keep us safe. It is not wired for making more money and having success in business. And so for most of us, it is a safety mechanism. It is a self-protection mechanism to focus on and to prioritize potential threats or what we don't have yet or what we think is wrong with us, because we think if we can prevent that threat from happening or if we can fix what's wrong with us, then we can make ourselves safe. However, that is making what is wrong with you, what is wrong with your business, all of the things you don't want, that becomes the priority you focus on instead of what we have to do. And I know this is, I mean, it's very simple mindset chat here, but I think it's just helpful to see it under a different lens. We have to really get clear on what is actually the priority. What is it that I want to tell my brain is the priority? That's what we want to practice focusing on, shifting our attention to. It's just really, I mean, I don't want to create a story, but it is just really, 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 really tough to, let's say, like for my example, it would be very tough for me to stay fully booked and to make the money I do if I was walking around all the time prioritizing the thought of what if the bottom falls out, or what if clients don't hire me, or this isn't working in my business, or I'm not good enough, or all of these people are making more money than me, or whatever that is. Like if that's what I was prioritizing, it would just be like, or if I was just thinking about, oh my gosh, I have an open spot to fill, whatever that thought is, if that's what I was focusing on, it would just be really tough to actually have the results that I want. It's really tough to walk around saying, this isn't working, why isn't this working for me? And to actually end up being someone who has the results that work for you, because what you are saying is a priority is this not working for me. All right, hopefully that one makes sense. I'm going to shift to the strategy part though, because I think this is the place where priorities become really important. what I think is helpful in business for us to think about when we're thinking about strategy, my coach talks about, Lacey Sites, to give her a shout out, talks about knowing the right problem to solve at any time. I talk sometimes about like knowing what gap to close. I think that's kind of saying the same thing in different ways. And I think that's really true. I think if we, in many ways, like that's knowing what the priority is in your business. I think the other way we can look at it is a priority is also just a goal. What I think happens so often when we're stuck, when we're not getting the results we want, when we want to double or triple our revenue, I think all of our brains just think we need to do more and more and more. And we start to focus on a lot of things, either when we're stuck or when we want to create more. And the truth is, if we want to double, triple revenue, if we want to create bigger results, what we focus on expands. I mean, that sounds so cheesy, but we need to really understand what is the goal, what is the priority, and then what is the simplest path to get there. I know this sounds very, very Captain Obvious, but I'm going to break this down a little bit with some examples with like content or just like if you wanted to book sales calls or something like that. There's so many moving pieces in business, and there's so many things you could always do. And there will forever be, for all of us, I'll use myself as an example. I have needed to update my website for at least 5 years, right? My website, I told one of my clients this recently. My client is updating her website, and she was looking at mine for inspiration. I was like, that's fine. You're welcome to look at my website for inspiration. And also just know that I would never recommend to do your website the way I did. I think that's a 5-year-old website. It needs updating. And I know it's not a priority for me in my business. And I know what is a priority for me in my business. And so I could go fix that right now, but I have to be really clear, because if I go spend time fixing my website, while that would make my website better and shinier, I know it's not a priority. I know it's also not what is driving the most results in my business. And that would take me away from my current priority in my business. So that's an example there of priorities, or in terms of there's just always stuff your business needs, and there's always shit you can do. And I was talking about this with a client yesterday. I was lovingly giving her a hard time because she has these really great opportunities. And I was just telling her, like, you're gonna have to practice saying no to some of these opportunities. She's like, but they're really good opportunities. I'm like, they are really good opportunities. This is the challenge for you in business, and this is the challenge for all of us in business. As you grow, especially as you're getting ready to double and scale, you're not going to be at a shortage of opportunities. I think I talk about this in so many different ways all of the time. You are going to have more opportunities than you can say yes to. And you have to understand what is a priority for you in business, not what is a priority for someone else, not what is a priority for your clients, not what is a priority for the online space, not what is a priority for, so and so. You have to know what is a priority for you in your business and what is the number one thing you're focused on. So you know what opportunities to say yes to and all the things to say no to, or you will say yes to the wrong, I don't want to make anyone wrong, like not the wrong things, but kind of the wrong things in terms of they're not going to get you what you want most. This is, and I'm not going to go down that path yet with an example, because otherwise I'll go down a rabbit hole. So I'm going to give I'll give a couple of examples here, but let me know if this is landing for you and if this is making sense, or if you have any questions about this. But what I find for us is most of us can have just a few priorities in business at any given time, usually 1 to 2, it's sort of like solving the right problem, but really like what is your main goal? And it's just so important to us. I'll use myself as an example. When I was first getting fully booked in my business, my priority was getting fully booked. My priority was literally to get on calls with people to sell them and to sell coaching spots. That was my whole priority. Get calls, right? Book clients, serve those clients, right? So basically book calls, coach my face off, and serve those clients really well. That was my priority. My priority was not grow my Facebook group. My priority was not grow my email list. My priority was not have a big audience. My priority was not get a bunch of engagement. My priority was not make a nice website. None of those things were my priority. And because I got super clear on what was my priority, I made sure every action I took was filtered through the lens of how does this get me closer to either getting on a call with someone, right, or coaching someone or serving my clients well. Now, of course, some of the things I did for that helped grow my Facebook group, helped grow my audience, helped grow my email list. Of course, some of those things, like that was a byproduct, but I would have taken a very, very, very different strategy if my priority had been grow my Facebook group than if my priority was to book people on calls, right? I would have literally been promoting different things and taken a different strategy. I'll use when I had my podcast for an example. I needed to know what was my priority with my podcast. Was my priority conversions, right? Did I want that to help bring in one-on-one coaching clients? Which meant I had to know the priority of my own business, right? For me to have that podcast, I needed to know the priority in my own business in terms of, my priority is one-on-one, right? Like my priority is, that's all I do is sell one-on-one offer 101. My priority is booking, keeping one-on-one clients, people, teaching people about my work. Like, so it's essentially conversions. That's so important for me to know, because if my priority had been, oh, I'm actually getting ready to launch a course and I'm going to change my business model up, my then priority on my podcast in terms of how I structured that podcast would have been completely different, because one-on-one, in conversions, what that means is I need to build a relationship with you. I need to go deep with you. I'm not looking for huge numbers. I'm looking for a couple of the right fit people at any given time. I'm thinking about this on Instagram right now. It's really interesting. I have a couple of reels that haven't performed as well, and they're performing the best in terms of saves, people in my DMs, people telling me how this really landed with them, like nurturing new clients, as opposed to some of my more viral posts, which means for me and my priorities, that makes sense. Whereas going back to the podcast example, if I was getting ready to launch a course or a mastermind where, yes, my priority would still be sales, but I would have a very different priority, because suddenly I'd be playing more of an audience and numbers game where I would need more people and I wouldn't need to go as deep with them. And so my priority with my podcast probably would be a little bit more audience growth and growing those numbers. I would take a completely different strategy. I would do a lot of interviews. I would do different marketing. I would probably pick a different topic. I mean, I don't have my podcast anymore. I had one question, but that was a very niche topic that was very focused on coaching and helping demonstrate how I think about business, how I think about coaching. It literally is around one question. Like, you can't get more coaching niche than that, because as coaches, what we do is ask one question, and like my philosophy around you have all the answers inside of you, and one question can change the entire trajectory of your life. Like, that's what I believe with coaching. I think that's why it's so fucking powerful. One question can unlock your next idea. It can unlock your next $1 million. It can unlock the next action step. It can unlock where you're getting stuck, as opposed to me just like feeding you a ton of course material. It's why I believe one-on-one. It's why I only offer one-on-one. I think it's why I'm great at one-on-one and asking the right question. Like, if we want better answers and we want better results, we have to ask better questions, is my absolute belief. That is so niche. That is so niche and so specific. And it worked really well for me because I knew my priority in my business. Again, if I was selling a course or a mastermind, I probably wouldn't pick that topic. I probably would not pick something so niche. I would probably pick something a little bit more general, a little bit more universally interesting, I guess, so to say. I would definitely have way more guests, right? I would just position things a little bit differently, because I would have a different priority in my business. And my priority in my business would be filling that mastermind, filling that course, which would also mean part of my priority is a little bit more audience focused, because I'm selling one to many, not one to one. And so numbers do matter in a different way in that game. And I think that's just, again, this just comes back to understanding priorities in your business and then how that affects your strategy. Another micro example here, I'm just going to see, do I have, okay, y'all are very quiet, so hopefully this is landing. Another example, I talk about this with clients quite a bit when we're, like, because I just mentioned my reels, when we're looking at their content and they're sort of like, well, should I use this CTA at the end? Or like, how should I position this? Or like, do you think I should do this or this in my content? And what I'll often ask them is, what's your goal with your content, which is essentially what's your priority right now? Because what I see happen so often, I think this is just such a micro example of the macro of what I'm trying to get across here, is we just try to do so much with any piece of content, with any strategy, with anything in business. And the second we're trying to do more than one thing is usually the second our results fall flat. So with a simple piece of content, so many of us are just like, well, I'm trying to nurture people. I'm trying to also sell. I'm trying to go viral. I'm trying to get a lot of engagement. I'm trying to teach people about my brand and my values. I'm trying to be political. I'm trying to give educate. We're trying to do so many things in one piece of content. And that's when we kind of do nothing. You know, what's the saying, like, try to talk to everybody, talk to no one. We talk about that more with messaging or with niching. It's the same thing with our priorities. So even with a piece of content, I at any given time want to know, what is my priority with my current strategy? Am I more focused on nurturing? Am I more focused on building my brand? Am I more focused on sales? And, you know, usually it's a combination of all of those, but there might be, like, if I was in the middle of a launch, I would probably be pushing out very different content than if I, you know, was pre-launch, where I'm really wanting to nurture people more. I would strategically have a different priority because I have a different goal of my business, and I would put out different type of content. And then within each piece of content, I want to get really clear on what's my goal, what's my one priority and goal with that, so that I can be strategic in terms of how I'm positioning that and what I expect, and even how I'm looking at the metrics to measure that on the back end. So, for example, what we're talking about, I have a post if my goal is to get more eyeballs and to grow my audience, I'm going to want to create content that is more likely to get reach, more likely to get engagement, more likely to go viral. That's content that's going to be a lot more universal. It's still specific, still very, very specific, but it's going to be just stuff that's just a little bit lighter, a little bit funnier, a little bit more entertaining. Maybe it's spicy, but it's a little bit more universal and specific, and it's just something I know people, my thought there is always is this something I would share with my best friend or with someone else, right? It's just going to be more shareable content. If I'm looking to really highlight my values and to speak to my warm audience, I'm going to share content that is probably a lot more personal, a lot more nuanced, a lot more still specific, but it's going to be a lot probably more vulnerable in that way. And I would expect it to, maybe it could pop and get some reach, but I would expect it to do a lot better with my warm audience and not reach as many cold people. And it might get a lot more engagement, but it might just not go as viral in terms of reels. If I was really looking to sell, I would position stuff in such a different way, right? I would really want to be teaching people what the problem they have is, what the result they have is, why I'm the best person to help them, what that's the next step I want them to take. And I wouldn't expect that to go super viral. It could if I was doing on Instagram, kind of comment the word below strategy, and it was something new, that could definitely boost the reach. But generally speaking, because I did one of those last week, and we got check it out, I gave away my 7-figure sales actions cheat sheet without an opt-in. If you go onto Instagram, you can just DM me the word sales, and you don't have to find the post, and I'll give it to you, no opt-in required. I'm just my name, Kim Market Sarah on Instagram if you want that. But as an example with that, I got quite a few comments, but it's not like that went super viral, because that's just not viral content. That's not the kind of content I'm going to share with another person. But I knew my priority. My priority on that was get a bunch of people interested in this, because I wanted to build that deeper relationship with that value. So because I knew the priority, I wasn't trying to do two things at once. If I had tried to make that a viral reel and have that convert into people leaving a comment, I probably would have just not gone either. But that absolutely got a ton of comments and people signing up for that and getting value from that. Whereas, again, if I had tried to have two priorities, that probably wouldn't have happened. So again, I think it's just so important for us to understand this. And I think most of us are like, no, I know my priority. It's to make money. It's to make sales and business. But then we have to look at, is how we are showing up, is that actually feeding your number one priority? And do you know the right problems to solve, but do you know then what your current priority to focus on in your business? Because it also changes from season to season. I need to sip my coffee. And I'm going to share how this changes from season to season, and then we'll talk schedule a little bit. Hello, hey, just nice to see you, just dropping in. Nice to have you live. This also changes from season to season, though. So I think we can know the priority. So for example, my priority when I started my business, if it was getting on coaching calls and coaching my face off and booking clients, not growing my audience, for example, not growing my Facebook group, et cetera, that also shifts. That's not my priority forever. Then I got fully booked. Suddenly I had a different priority. Then I got overbooked at one point. I had 29 clients. My priority was definitely no longer get on calls with people and fill spots. My priority was to solve for that capacity. My priority at that time was actually really bring on team, and we had team, but really to refine team and systems and processes to open up my capacity, and then if anything to look at how do we streamline things, and those were my priorities. But in terms of marketing, my priority did become more audience growth, future-proofing my business, right? It just changed what I wanted to focus on. Again, using the launch example, when you're in a launch, your priorities in business are going to be very different in terms of what you're showing up for versus when you're pre-launch. Launch results happen, what do we say, summer abs are made in the winter. Launch results are made pre-launch or in pre-launch season, right? You're probably going to be a lot more in audience growth and in nurture as your priority. And so I think, again, it's just important to know we can understand our priorities at any given time, and then they tend to shift from season to season. So I think it's such an important thing to revisit. But I would just check in, do you know your number one priority and focus in business right now? Do you know the number one both goal, but also the priority to help you reach that goal? So I think we can have the goal, I want to book 10 clients. I want to make 10 sales in this launch. I want to grow my audience by 1,000 people, whatever that is, the goal. But then do you know the top priorities to focus on to get you there? The client I was using as an example, and I was giving her a loving hard time, but she was talking about how, this will kind of lead us into the scheduling part really well. She was talking about, her priorities, and she's just booked some clients. She's doing a great job, but she was talking about some of the things she'd been spending her time on. I was like, well, with so much love, like none of these are actually priorities for you. They're actually a distraction. They're great opportunities, but they are actually a distraction if we're saying the priority is to book clients in your business right now. The couple of great opportunities that she mentioned were taking a lot of time, and they were wonderful, and she was making them a priority, but they were actually taken away from what was the priority in her business. And I gave her a little bit of a hard time. And one of the things I said to her is like, right now your business isn't a priority. And I didn't mean it like you're not making it a priority or anything like that. But what I meant is, based on where your time and attention is getting allocated, and based on what we're focusing on and what we're making important, your business and the goals in your business, which for her are booking clients, are kind of falling last. And it doesn't mean these other things aren't important, but we have to get really honest with what is the priority for you in business and what are the priority action steps that get you there. Because otherwise it is, again, just so easy to get so busy and have your schedule jam-packed full with all of these things that are great and that are beautiful and wonderful and not like bad things at all. But we have to then be willing to understand and accept, if we do that and we crowd our schedule with all of these other things that aren't priorities and aren't priority action steps that get us to our goal, we have to be okay with then not getting the results we want. And what we're actually saying is this thing isn't as much of a priority as I say it is. So let's talk about the schedule part in here, because I think this is the part that gets the hardest with priorities. I think scheduling is a never-ending juggle in business, no matter what business model you have. This is not just a one-on-one thing. I mean, look, today I told you that in June we're going to change the time of this masterclass so that I can open up a client spot, right? I'm always playing with scheduling stuff. But I think whether you have a launch model, whether you run a big group program, whether you have a mastermind model, one-on-one, I think scheduling is just a thing we are always playing, because as business owners, we have a lot of different hats we're wearing. Even if you have a big team and lots of support, you're still the CEO in your business. You can't really outsource, unless you literally hire a CEO, you can't outsource that. And most of us have other priorities, using the word priority, outside of business. We have family, we have fitness and health, we have travel, we have fun, adventurous things. Right? There's just we have hobbies. There are things that are outside of our business that are important to us. And so with scheduling, I think what, again, is really important to know is that no one's doing it all. I think that is just so important. And this kind of comes back to it's almost like a life coaching 101, like basic ass conversation. And I say that just because I think we can eye roll this stuff and then we can forget how valuable this is. And coming back to getting clear on, in this season for you, I always think it's really tough to have more than three top priorities. You can have 5, but I would get clear. And by priorities in this case, I would say, what are your top 3 values or top 3 priorities? Come up with 5 if you need to, and then I would write them in, get clear on them in importance order. The reason for this is everything can't be the same level of importance. It just can't be. But most of us, especially as high achievers, I think a lot of us women do this. I know I have male clients as well, and I think some of them do this as well. I think we think everything can have a level 10 importance, and everything is a level 10 importance, and everything needs level 10 focus from us. And so I think when we can get clear on what are our top 3 level 10 important things, and then what are the things that are important to us, but just that don't have the same level of importance, it gets to be a lot easier to schedule things in business and to schedule the things that are a priority, and to be able to schedule the things that are a priority in your personal life around your business, or your business around your life, depending on how you want to think about that. I have 2 things I want to share here. I think this is also really helpful communication if you have a team. With my team, we literally use a 1 to 10 scale, because I think, again, most of us are running around thinking everything is a level 10 importance and everything is a fucking emergency and everything needs our attention now. And that is, again, the quickest way, if you're not burning yourself out, to burn your team out, or to just spend a lot of fucking money in your business tinkering and doing stuff and paying team to do stuff that isn't a priority and isn't moving the needle forward. So even with team, we have that scale in terms of if we're doing something new or if we're working on something, I will say to team on a scale of 1 to 10 importance level, like priority level, this is a 2. Meaning that's how much this matters. That's where I want you to slot this in. This can get done over the next 3 months, and I don't want us to spend more than X amount of hours on this, not because I don't want to pay you, but because it is just simply not a priority. I think my website's a great example of that. Like on the flip side, there are things where I'll say this is a level 9 or 10 priority. For example, if it's something going on with a client, my clients are, outside of my team, my clients are my number one priority. I mean, I love them. It is my business model. I want to be there to support them. But it's also really important to me that they feel held and taken care of, not just in the coaching container, but in the process in terms of, you know, booking sessions. I want them to have a high touch personalized experience because that's what they're investing in. And so, for example, if my OBM needs to reschedule someone or navigate something, that is something where I'll say, I know the priorities in my business. My priority is not to fix this thing on the website or this thing in the sales funnel that is working perfectly fine and we don't need any clients, but this thing we need to communicate with a client to make sure that they don't miss out on a session, that's a level 9 or 10 priority. But it's very helpful because then team also knows for themselves, if they have a bunch of things to do, how to prioritize that. And that just helps your team to run more efficiently and for you to actually have the things that are a priority to move forward and for them to know what kind of like reverence, I guess, to give to things as well, just like not just at the time alone. The other piece I wanted to say around this, that I think this is the example, I feel like I'm sharing like a lot of like coaching 101 things, but sometimes the 101 stuff, sometimes the basics are what are the most helpful to remember. A client and I were talking about this yesterday, and I think it's just such a visual reminder. Have you all heard of the jar and the rocks example, the big rocks example, where someone look this up on YouTube, but someone takes a jar and they have big rocks like pebbles, sand, and water. And if they put the sand in and then the pebbles and then the big rocks in, the big rocks, like it's like the sand fills up this much of the jar. I wish I had a jar to show you this, but the sand fills up this much of the jar, the pebbles come on top, and you can get like one big rock in and then the water pours around. But if you take the big rocks first and put them in and then put the little pebbles around it and then the sand, and then I don't know if they put water in, but like everything fits in the jar. And basically it's a visual representation and metaphor of when you know your priorities, when you know those level 9 to 10 things that are actually really important to you, and you prioritize those first, then it's very easy for the little pebbles and the sand to filter in around that. But if you don't know what is a level 9 or 10 priority and you're acting like everything is, or you're treating everything like a level 1 to 2 priority and urgency level, either way, and you're just crowding your schedule out with those 1 to 2, like I could forever, if this is helpful to know, I literally at any given time have multiple people who are left unread in my DMs, multiple comments that I have not gone to in this Facebook group. I love you all so much, but like, not that you aren't a priority, but that's just not a priority for my time. I have lots of close friends. I have a couple of text messages right now from a couple days ago from friends that I love them. They are a priority to me, but responding to a random text message or like a funny meme just isn't a priority when I have other things going on. But if I made keeping up with all of that, having my inbox at inbox 0 and making sure I responded to every single comment ever, if I made that as important as serving my clients, showing up here, responding to my clients in Basecamp, you know, within a reasonable time manner, reviewing their stuff, if I made all of that equally important, I would have half the clients I do. There's no way I could hold the number of clients I do. Or things in my personal life couldn't be a priority. I couldn't prioritize family. I couldn't prioritize my marriage then, and I couldn't prioritize my fitness. And I know for me, my top 3 priorities are, my first priority is my family and my marriage. My second priority is my fitness and my health. I don't know, we could say that maybe that's first, and then like I should prioritize myself first, but you got what I'm saying, like those are the top 2. And then it's my business. And it's kind of like, and I need to know that. And there have been times where, I mean, those are all priorities, but when I was growing my business, I had to move my business priority up a little bit, even, not that I was gonna like let my fitness or health go down, but like where I had to shuffle that around so that I could prioritize things. But if responding to comments and text messages was getting equal weight, then that would maybe mean I'm giving up the time I would have with my husband. But because I know this, and again, this sounds so simple, but most of us just aren't taking the time to get clear on this, or we're trying to do it all and then wondering why we're miserable, why we're burnt out, or this is when we get really fucking pissed at marketing, or a bit where it's like, ugh, I hate social media, or I hate this, or people are so needy or so demanding, as opposed to no, it's just usually it's because we're not clear on what's a priority and everything seems important, everything seems like a fire to put out, and everything seems like a level 10, or nothing does. And I think getting clear on this makes scheduling so much easier, because then you can take, what are those 3 boulders for you, those 3 big rocks? I would really invite you, this is what my client and I were talking about, I would really invite you to literally schedule them in. If I look at your calendar should indicate to me your top three priorities, your top 2 to 3 priorities. If you were to look at my calendar, look, and I give myself permission, I hate being boxed in. I'm a fucking Manny Gen X actress, creative person. I hate being told what to do. I hate static schedules. That's probably why we change the live stream every couple of years. I hate feeling like I'm not in control and boxed in. Like I am, I don't know, all of the things that make me a great entrepreneur. And I also have a business and clients and things that do require me to be scheduled in. I have priorities I want to make happen. So I schedule everything in so that I make sure there's time for it. And then I just give myself freedom to move things around or to let them be like fluid or to change them around as I need. But I know that those sorts of constraints, and if I schedule my big boulders, that actually gives me more freedom. And that also ensures they happen. And that means then magically the little pebbles and the sand can filter in around it. And I can get kind of all the things I want done. Like I actually, like I know later today, I'm going to catch up with my friends and like get back to them and those messages. And I usually get back to the comments and the DMs. But if I flip-flopped that, like I would never get to the things that are important in my business. So with the scheduling, I think when you understand that, and what I would just see is, like personally for me, if I was wanting to double or triple my revenue, no one needs to make business a priority. I don't think for most of us it's actually healthy to make business your number one priority. I don't know, somebody like maybe there's a time maybe when you're starting where it needs to be number one priority. Helena says, I'm in launch, yes. Oh, yes. I missed that comment, so it was from 9 minutes ago, but yes, you know what I'm talking about with the priority piece. But tell me if you had another comment on there to speak to. And I'm curious for those of you watching how you think about this. I think maybe when we're growing our business needs to be our number one priority. But I actually think sometimes it can be a little unhealthy when business is our number one. I don't know. There's like the Alex Hormozis of the world where I think his business probably is his number one priority. And I would say business is really up there for me. But I think when we're so hyper fixated and we get almost like I can be obsessive in a healthy way type of a thing. But I know if I didn't have like a life outside of business that I was equally obsessed with. Like if I wasn't obsessed about my hip hop class tonight, or obsessed about having my date night with my husband, or obsessed with taking myself on a date. Like I like to take myself on dates. I don't know. I think sometimes that can almost turn business into a very unhealthy relationship where we need to get everything from our business and all of our needs met from our business and all of our fulfillment from our business and all of our money. Like it almost like becomes like a toxic relationship where we're asking our partner to give and be and do everything for us. And so in that way, what I would venture here is I think there's often times when we're not getting the results we want, an opportunity to prioritize our business more, right? To treat our business like a business and to make it a priority. I think sometimes we're not treating our business like a business if we're just being really honest. And I think sometimes we need to prioritize business. Or sometimes it is to deprioritize business because we've gotten so grippy and so obsessed and we're like up all night thinking about it, right? So I think remembering that, understanding, that's why I think it's helpful to like understand your top 3 to 5 priorities and give them maybe a numeric number if that helps your brain, because sometimes we need to deprioritize something so that it can feel a little less sticky and so it can feel a little more healthy. And then within this, so I would just, for anyone hearing this, especially for those of you with like kids at home or full schedules or maybe with a 9-to-5 job as well where you're paying the bills, business might not be your number one priority, and that doesn't mean you can't double or triple your revenue and you can't have success. But I was saying to my client yesterday, I was like, I don't think you need to like suddenly say your family and your health and fitness are not your number one, like aren't your top priorities. I think we can just also make business a priority and see how does this fit in together, as opposed to, and then when that's the case, when we have other priorities, I think what we want to look at then is if we're going to have full lives and not get burnt out. And I think most of us don't want to work 24/7, and you know, there few of you do, and I'm not judging if that's the case. But for most of us, right, we want to have other things going on. That's why making business one of your top priorities and then knowing what inside of your business to prioritize, right? Seeing those as 2 different things becomes really, really important, because if we're saying, I'm not going to dedicate 24/7 to my business and everything is not eat, sleep, breathe, business, and I want my business to support my life instead of the other way around, my life supporting my business, right? If I want that, and I know that's what I want, I know that's what most of my clients want, then yes, I need to make business a priority and prioritize that. But probably for some of us, I need to deprioritize it a little bit and make it a little less all encompassing. But then if I'm going to do less better and if I'm going to get bigger results in less time, I have to know my number one priority in terms of goals, and I have to know what actions to prioritize, because I literally can't do it all, or I'm going to it's going to be at the expense of the other things that are a priority for my life, for me in my life, right? So kind of what we were talking about there. So I think this is where with scheduling this becomes so important. So hopefully that's helpful and just a way to think about. I literally, if this is helpful for anyone to hear, I look at my week. I'm very fluid and give myself lots of, again, I don't like at this time I need to do this thing unless it's a client call. But I do know on any given day, like these are the big bucket things that my business needs from me that I'm going to get done. And I will like float that around, just like I know in any given week, these are like, fitness is, it just is like like the gym is one of my happy places, not just hip hop choreo. It is, this will make some of y'all hate me. I'm like one of those people who like really gets an endorphin high, and I'm just like, it just makes me so happy to move my body. So that's such a priority. I mean, and my fitness and health and like longevity, and you know, I want to be fit in my 40s and 50s and all of that. But it also just is like genuinely one of my like happy places, and its community and all of that. So that's a priority for me. So I know on any given week, my schedule is going to change, but that is one of my top priorities. I literally go in and schedule. Like I can tell you all the times I'm going to work out the rest of this week. It's not a guess to me, but I can also tell you all the times this week I'm going to be on a client call. I can also tell you this week all the times I'm going to be creating content. I can tell you all the times this week, you know, when certain things in my business are going to get done, or I'm going to talk to my team, because those are all priorities for me. You can see them all on my calendar. So I know that it can sometimes sound rigid, but I want you to see how those are the big boulders in my life. Like I can also tell you when I have a date night, right? Tomorrow night I have a date night with my husband. I know that's a priority, and so it is on my calendar. And then within that, there's fluidity. In that it doesn't have to be, you know, if something came up tomorrow, I could reschedule our date night if we needed to. I'm just not going to do that every week because it's a priority for me. If I needed to get content done today and a client really needed something, right, a content review, or I wasn't feeling well, right, I could easily reschedule that or move that to another time. Like that's pretty easy to do. But if I don't know the priorities, you know, I don't even know the things to move around in the first place. And that is when it would be really easy instead to get lost in shiny object syndrome, where it's like, oh, but I need to work on this thing or this project, or create this thing over here that so-and-so told me I needed. And that's where, if we don't know our priorities, things really get us into trouble. And this just kind of put a bow on the conversation. Oh, and Alyssa, I want to see Alyssa and Kate. Okay, I'm going to put a bow on this. I'm going to remember my thought. Alyssa says, been loving all of your emails lately. The words really hit home. Alyssa, thank you so much for saying that. Oh, that just made my day. Because you know, with emails, you don't like always get the back and forth. You know, you can see the open rate, but you don't always know if like people are like actually reading them. And I feel like this is my own mindset trash. I feel like I have a story that in 2025 people don't like read emails anymore. So that just made my whole day. Thank you, Alyssa. Kate says, I truly believe that having those structures allow the flow. It's so true, Kate. I think this is not a me concept. I'm trying to think of where I first read this, but the whole concept that constraints actually make us more creative and make us feel more free. I think they've done studies on this, that like creatives and artists, if they give them like, oh, what book was this? Oh, it'll come to me. Just because I like to give credit where credit is due and like pull the research. But I think they gave artists like basically a blank canvas. It's like the equivalent to all of us on a blank Google Doc. Or they gave artists like a couple of colors or just a couple of materials. And the people who had more constraints and fewer things to work with were way more creative. And I know for me, I think this is actually why content has been way more fun recently, because I think with Reels, in particular, oftentimes I'll see an audio or I'll see a hook and I'll get inspiration for something, and usually I make something completely different because if you know me, I just like I like have an inner rebel. I'm like, oh, people are doing it this way, I've got to do it the opposite way, which can bite me in the ass sometimes. So I'm not suggesting that's the best strategy. It's just how I'm wired. But it's a constraint in terms of how I'm going to create something, as opposed to in the past when we, you know, at least for me, I used to batch content like a week or two at a time, and I would literally have a blank, I would like have a theme for the week or topics, and I would have a blank document. I'd have to write 7 to 10 posts, and I was just like, this is so like, ugh. So anyway, constraints and those structures, I think, make us more creative, free us up. But I think in terms of priorities and freedom, I just find, for as structured as I am, I feel like I have so much freedom and fluidity. And it also means all of the things that are priority for me, all those boulders, I get to have, like, I don't have it all. I think that's a fallacy. Like you get to have it all at the same time. But I have all the things that are priority to me. Like I feel like I was journaling last night and I was like, wow, I'm so grateful. I feel like I have it all because I have it all for like what is for Kim's version of having it all, because I prioritize that really, 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 really intentionally. But that wouldn't have been possible if I had made everything a priority. So kind of bringing it back, Kate, thank you so much for saying that, and Alyssa as well. Bringing, just to put a bow on this, when I bring it back to kind of like how this has helped me in business and how this has helped me create the results I want, I think the other big picture here is there is just so much noise in the online space, and it's not bad, but it can be really confusing, and it, I think, just gets harder and harder for all of us to keep the blinders on and to stay focused and to know what's working and not working when we are so infiltrated by basically what is everybody else's priority for us, instead of knowing what is our priority and then filtering in from that noise what helps us to fulfill our priority. And so when I think this is one of the things, I think I'm someone who has my blinders on pretty well. I mean, I'm human, so I get coaching as well, but I think I'm a pretty blinders on person, and I think that's just really served me in my marriage. It served me with my health. It served me with my business. I mean, I've had one offer for however long. I've had this Facebook group for however long. I mean, 9 years at this point. So if that gives any indication. And I'm someone who I'm a multi-passionate. I like to have my fingers in lots of things. But I think because I know I'm really, really clear on my priorities, I can see, I mean, I work with clients. I think otherwise it would actually be challenging working with so many clients in different business models and things, because I think my brain would be like, oh, well, I just helped them scale $1 million doing that. Like I should do that too. Or I just helped this client get really huge results doing this other thing. I should do that too. Or I would see peers or things online. It would just be so easy for me to be confused or to like want to ping pong around. But because I'm so clear on my priorities, outside of business and inside of business, and my current priorities at any given time in terms of my goals and what gets me there, I feel like it's actually very easy for me to be online. Like the online space doesn't overwhelm me or stress me out. And I don't mean that in an obnoxious way, but I think the reason for that is I can just see this is like great information, or this is really interesting, or this is something to file away to maybe help support a client with, or like this is cool to know for, a strategy for that other client who's got to launch. But it's just so much easier for me not to get I guess overwhelmed online, or to feel like I have FOMO, or like I need to buy this program, or like see what's over here, because I just know most of this doesn't apply at all to my priorities. And then the few things that do, then I can really trust myself and feel good investing in them, researching them, learning about them, implementing them, because I know they just get me closer to those priorities, which gets me all the things I want. Or I know what's a current priority, and that gets me what I want. I mean, I don't know if this is a good example. It's in my head. I'm going to share it. But I think even with the gym, I know my priorities there in terms of my fitness. So even that helps me. I never used to be a class person, and our gym has like the best classes, and they like scout the best like really, really great talent to come teach. And so I've gotten into them more, and they have, I mean, hundreds of incredible classes and instructors who are like celebrities online and all of the things. And I think even there, if I didn't know my fitness priorities and what got me to my fitness priority, I would just be so overwhelmed, and I would either take nothing, or I would probably be unhealthy and burn my body out because I would want to take all the things. Instead, I know like I have certain strength goals because I'm in my 40s and I want to have like muscles really important, right? So I know exactly what classes for that. And then I have certain cardio goals, and then I have certain fun goals. Like my hip hop choreo class tonight it's hitting my fun bucket. It is not hitting my other priorities. But then it makes it really easy for like all the hundreds of classes. I'm like, nope, there's just these 3 I'm going to take, and I know what days, I know how to schedule them in, and I know how to do them back to back. And so even there, it just helps minimize the choices, and I don't have any FOMO or anything like that. I'm just like, no, that just isn't a priority for me, and it also isn't one of my priority actions that gets me where I want to go. All right. I'm hitting you all over the head with this, but I hope this was a helpful conversation. I know this is not the sexiest thing. I know sometimes we just want like the, here's the way to do messaging, here's the way to do sales, and I'm all for that as well. Actually, the masterclass we're gonna have at the end of the month, I'm bringing back Words That Sell. I update this every year because your messaging, and I teach this I have a very unique approach to this. Like I said, I'm a rebel, so I can't teach things the way other people do, and I update it every year. So we'll have Words That Sell 2025 at the end of the month. I'll announce this officially, I think, next week. So obviously these things are still important. I still think messaging is super important. I think having a sales process and a sales funnel and doing your marketing, like I'm not discounting that, but all of that can't get you the results you want, especially if you want to scale and double and triple your revenue if you don't know your priorities. Even with your messaging, we need to know your priority in your business so we know what to message around. Like this is like, again, this is just going to be the linchpin. And so if you feel like, just to close this up on how you can use this conversation, so it's not just like cool concept, it's something you can apply. I would just take a look, like just check in. Do you know your top priorities inside and outside of business? And I would just get clear on those. Is your schedule reflecting that? If not, what do you need to change? And then I would just take a look at, are you currently clear within your business what your current goal is and what are the priority actions that get you there? And or is there anywhere that you're feeling really stuck or frustrated or not getting what you want? Check in. Like there's probably a good chance that you're not actually clear on what the priority is, or what the priority, like the right problem to solve, like what the priority is for you to focus on with your strategy. And then that's a great place to either get curious or to bring to your coach, or to get some support around, because again, that's usually going to be the thing. Then if you do need to clean up your messaging or you do need to clean up your sales process, you're going to know the right thing to focus on, instead of just, oh, I'm frustrated, I'm not getting the results I want, let me just grasp onto doing anything, or so-and-so said I should focus on this. And it's not that any of those things are wrong, it's just if it's not the priority for you to focus on that gets you where you want to go, you're just going to be busy doing instead of the few things that are priority to get you where you want to go. All right. Kate says, love strength training, and I'm playing with SIT, sprint interval training, which is interesting. Oh, I don't know if I know that, but I like sprint interval training. I take spin a couple times a week. I'm a psycho spin person. So I bet the SIT, I bet the sprint interval training, that's part of what we do in that quite a bit, and I love it very much. Strength training, I have to say, this is, y'all, I'm just gonna like chit chat for a second so you can hop off, but just because it's important. But I do feel like there's a business metaphor in this. I had so much resistance to strength training, Kate. I cannot tell you. Like, I am someone who, like, I actually love to work out. And I was like, ugh, I don't want to do strength. I was like so mad at it. And I have to say, I kind of love it now. And I like kind of crave it now, but it took me a second to get past my like literal the resistance to get strong enough, but also past that resistance. And so I think there's just there's something to that for all of us to remember in our business as well. Like those things we resist persist, but also sometimes the things we resist are the things we end up loving the most or needing the most. Kate says you just go crazy for 20 seconds. Yes, that I do love. It is both like exhausting in the best way, and it's so good endurance wise. Yes, I didn't know that was a name for it, but yes, I like that as well, Kate, very much. Okay, y'all, I'm gonna lovingly let you go. Reminders, again, if you're interested in working together, you want support with getting clear on your priorities, but mapping out that strategy, as well as the support on the mindset side of things so that you're prioritizing your focus, but also learning how to think like a CEO and kind of getting out of your own way so that you can scale to sustainable 6 and 7 figures. We are not here to hustle and burn out. We want you to have a life as well. I'm meeting with potential clients for upcoming openings for my ongoing partnership. I'm not sure when the next opening for that is, but we definitely have some strategy intensives opening up. And then I'm also opening up some VIP in-person days in New York City, end of summer, fall kind of timeline. Actually, I don't have any in fall. End of summer, winter is when I have those. I did not mean to lie there, but I don't think I have any in the fall. I think that's already booked up. And then we're playing with that half-day virtual intensive. So I will drop a link for a free coaching consultation. And then that other reminder is the first week in June, our live streams will be an hour earlier. I will keep reminding you of that all. But just to let you know, Kate says thank you, as always. Thank you for being here. Oh, she says, yes, I'm the same, but didn't love the cardio side. Yeah, so we're inverse. And then it's like funny how we just, I think none of, okay, then I'm actually shutting up, y'all. I'm like a chatty Cathy today because I've had my coffee. I think, especially if we're high achievers, whether you identify that or not, this is my theory, I think we just don't like things that we're not immediately good at. And I think as high achievers, there's a lot of stuff we're just pretty naturally good at and like can pick up really quickly. And so I know for me, strength training, it wasn't that I was like bad at it, but like I couldn't immediately be the best at it, which sounds so obnoxious. So I had resistance to it. But then once I got good at it, I really liked it. And I think that happens in business as well, right? Anything we're not immediately good at, like reels or marketing or sales, we just decide we hate that. And then usually it's just because we've never had to actually go through the learning curve because things come more easily and naturally to us. Anyway, that's my theory. And I think the more we can get over that, the easier it is to get results in business. All right. I am now actually going to go, y'all. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I hope this was valuable for you. I will see you next week. Bye.